Hi, this is April Perry and Jonathan Bailor back with another episode of The SANE Show. And we were laughing right before we started recording because we heard from a listener that she thought his name was Jonathan Bailor back with another SANE Show. And actually, Jonathan, you want to tell us your middle name? Because it was actually pretty funny.
Yes. So my middle name is Beckett. So I think this listener was like Jonathan Bailor back or Jonathan Bailor Beck or something. Yeah. And my name is actually Jonathan Beckett Bailor. And I was raised Catholic. So technically my name is Jonathan Beckett Gabriel because it's a confirmation name in there, Baylor. So that's the first time I've ever shared that publicly. So there you go. Jonathan JBGB is my full initial set.
Love it. And I'm April Nichelle Perry. So if anyone's interested, like Michelle with an N.
I knew that I've seen that, but I never knew how to say it. So I learned something.
Michelle, kind of interesting. Yes, my older brother came up with that. So really fun. Okay, so now that we've talked about our middle names and you know us really well, we are going to talk about an issue that plagues pretty much every person who I know who has ever tried to lose weight, and that is how you get rid of the last 10 pounds. Now, first of all, I just need to say, as a woman who has given birth to 4 children, that has always been the hardest part. I can get back pretty much to pre-pregnancy weight, but those last 10 pounds are so hard. So is this something that you've seen as a challenge, Jonathan, and the people you've worked with?
It absolutely is, and this is an episode we're gonna get a little bit metaphysical, and there's gonna be some emotional aspects to it as well. Because the first thing I want to bring up when we talk about the last 10 pounds is like I want to question that. I want to question the question of like it's assumed to be true in a lot of people's minds that there's a last 10 pounds, that they have 10 more pounds of fat on their body than they should, or they have 10 more pounds of fat on their body that is healthy, or that is, 10 more pounds than is natural. And I want to,
that is socially acceptable.
So, but see, that's a really important distinction, right? Okay. So, and that's the key thing is, so let me just by way of example, I like to start just to get geeky here for a second. So my background, I have a minor in philosophy. My dad's a philosophy professor, so sometimes I like to philosophize. So there's this term in logic and philosophy. It's called reductio ad absurdum, which is when you take something and you use the logic to an extreme point, and you show that like this logic can't be sound because when taken to the extreme, it has a absurd conclusion. So let me give you an example here. So if you saw a 65, let's say if you saw a 75-year-old woman who is a grandmother of 8 kids, she has 8 grandkids. Okay. Should she have a 6-pack? Like, in your heart of hearts, should a 75-year-old grandmother of 8 have a 6-pack?
I would be very surprised.
And the reason I would argue, and the reason I want to ask this is because most people just instantly like, no, that shouldn't be. And why do we think it shouldn't be? Because we're like, well, that's not natural. Like when you're 75 and you've created
round and soft and huggy.
yeah. And you've lived life, you've done certain things. So we know in our heart of hearts that which is healthy, natural, and normal for a 75-year-old grandmother is not the same as what is healthy and normal and natural for a 17-year-old teenager, right? Would you agree that that's true?
I would agree that that's true. And now I feel like I'm in a therapy session, Jonathan, because, okay, I'm approaching 40 right now. I'm 37 and I'm getting close to 40. In my mind, I still think I'm 17. My mom always says that the spirit doesn't age, right? So that your body can age, but inside, she's like, you always feel the same. You always feel the same. And so I think even just looking at myself, when you even just pose that question, what is natural and normal for your body? And I ask myself that. For a woman who's approaching 40, what's natural and what's right for me? And what I found is that I still have issues in my head from all the propaganda that I've seen throughout my life, thinking that I need to be 10 pounds, 20 pounds lighter just in order to fit in with what's in the magazines or what's in front of me. And to be totally honest, just even doing a podcast with you about health, I'm thinking, well, I don't have like the same body that's on this fit magazine at the grocery store. Should I even be having this discussion with you? Like, there's lots of fitness models out there who could come be your co-host here on the show. Why am I here? Why am I talking about this when I'm not this ideal body that our society has set up? So this is where your question is so good. What is right? What is natural for me? And I'll just answer it quickly, then I'll turn over to you. But I think looking at what I do have right now, where I'm totally healthy, energetic, happy, vibrant, excited about my life. I can do everything I want. I'm eating great foods. I have great relationships. My marriage is happy. Everything's going great in my life. And I fit in my clothes and I feel really good about my own body. And I still think that's not enough sometimes. So I don't know. Help me out here, Jonathan.
Hey, bro, you're not alone. And we're all on some level. It's obviously 10 times worse for women, but men are quickly catching up in our culture. Now men, back in the day, it was just, men, whatever, they don't care about their appearance at all. Obviously that's changing a little bit, but it's still nowhere near the pressure that females face. And that's the key thing though, that we have to examine is, is that last 10 pounds real? I mean, if you're a 17, and again, we talked about childhood obesity before, but this is why childhood obesity breaks my heart. Like it is not ever natural, normal, or healthy for a child to be overweight. Like there is that was unheard of. If you look at cultures prior to the modern era, there was never an obese child. Like that's crazy. That's just crazy talk. But clearly a 75-year-old woman, what is natural, normal, and healthy for her is different than what's natural, normal, and healthy for a 45-year-old woman or a 25-year-old woman or a 16-year-old man for that matter. But the key distinction, April, is what's natural, normal, and healthy? Because it's not to say that, so that extra, that last 10 pounds, what that will probably do is give you and anyone else who's thinking about that an unnaturally fit body. Mm-hmm. Right? That fitness model that you see on that magazine is unnaturally fit. She is doing unnatural things to achieve that. And that's not a criticism, right? Every Olympic athlete in the world, anyone who's great at like any performance, anything, they have an unnatural level of performance. Yeah. The way you get there is by doing unnatural things. So like how do we lose that last 10 pounds? So the first point we have to make is chances are that last 10 pounds is a societal construct.
It's in your head.
It's in your head. And however, that's not, if your goal is to be unnaturally fit, like here you go. My goal is to be unnaturally fit. That is my goal, right? I have a goal of being unnaturally fit, and I've structured my life around that goal. The way I eat is not natural, right? Like it's crazy and it's super healthy, but it's like ridiculously healthy. I mean, it's no human being in nature could eat as naturally healthy as I do, but it's a goal. So that's the key distinction is, and if it is your goal, well, then now we need to talk about like, are you willing to do the unnatural things that it will take to reach that unnatural level of fitness?
That's a really good question. And I think, and I don't know how really I can answer that at this point. I feel like right now, the reason why I love SANE so much is because it fits in with a busy life that's full of priorities that are higher up on the list than that. For example, I've talked a lot of in my other podcasts and things like that about my mom who's dying of Alzheimer's right now, and my dad who's had heart problems. They're both in their 80s, and I go visit them every week. I take 6 hours a week to spend time with my parents because this is the only time I'll ever be able to be with them for the rest of my life, right? And so that's really important to me. I also work from home. My desk right here. My husband usually sits right across. We work together. We are building businesses together. We're growing together, and that time together means a lot to both of us and to take care of our 4 children. I have a daughter, Aaliyah, who's leaving the house in 3 years. She'll be off at college. I have 3 years left with her here. And my 7-year-old is turning 8 in 2 weeks. And I can't get enough of him. He's so funny. Yesterday I went rollerblading and he got a scooter, and my 12-year-old boy brought some rollerblades as well. And we went out together and just had a great time together. I love being with my family. I love the work I'm doing. And if you were to ask me, April, do you want to spend more time at the gym? Do you want to spend more time and energy learning how to do biohacks or things so that you can have really ripped arms and you can, have this unnaturally healthy body? Would you like to trade what you're doing right now in order to achieve that? And my answer is no. I don't care if my arms are ripped. I really don't. It's not important to me right now. And I think though sometimes I feel like by making this choice, which I know in my heart is the right choice with what I'm doing with my life, like I'm letting down some expectations someone might have of me, which is absolutely ridiculous. So there you go. I just poured out my whole heart to you.
No, well, April, I know I'm not the only person who appreciated that, because I know you're not the only person that feels that way. And I think when it's at one point in time, I was harassed on the internet because I said for a while that having a 6-pack is a skill. And people were like, what, like, how do I acquire this skill? And the analogy I was using was, like, for example, a great golfer, like, that is a skill, and it takes practice and it takes work, and it's not natural to be able to hit a ball 400 yards into a teeny tiny hole. Like, that's super unnatural. and it is not only unnatural, but I would argue it's impossible to do. Like, we can't be a 10 out of 10 at everything, right? Yeah. I've talked about this before, and it's hard to communicate it well in a short period of time. But, we live in a culture which it's amazing in some ways, because it says you can do whatever you want. You can be whoever you want to be. And what a lot of us internalize that as is we should be everything. And it's just because we're not trying hard enough that we aren't perfect at everything. And that's, you know this because you're a productivity expert, but you can't be a 10 out of 10 at everything. Yeah. You can't. And if you want to be a 10 out of 10 at fitness, I can tell you how to do that. It's going to take a long time. And it's really, SANE out of the box is going to make you really healthy. You will not get heart disease. You will not become diabetic. And you will look like a fit, natural, normal human being. And let's be clear, for some people, like ectomorphs, people that are thin naturally, someone who was a size 0 in her teen years, after a couple kids, she probably will be, if she's totally sane, she'll probably be a size 2, maybe a size 4. But if when you were at your fittest, like if you were a size 8 at your fittest, and it's 30 years later, to expect yourself to be a size 4, that just can't happen. So when it's just an understanding of, like, look at, I think what you said is, your story is so powerful to share, because it's like, look at what you do have. And like, if someone just said, look, I will wave a magic wand and give you ripped arms if you give up the time with your mom and dad.
Never.
Would you, like, and not only that, but you wouldn't even feel bad about it. You'd be like, are you kidding me? So sometimes, we talk to ourselves in a way that we would never let it talk to us. So if you have to, think of someone you don't like. When these thoughts enter your mind, think of someone you don't like and have that person say to you, well, sure, April, or listener or viewer, you can have that 6-pack, but will you trade, time with your child? I'll give it to you, but you've got to give me, this, you've got to give me that. You have to trade something for it. Do you want to make that trade? Oh,
I think that's so smart. And I love how you encourage us to focus on, where do you want to be a 10 in your life? I think that's such a powerful question, because how many people actually answer that question? How many people could actually tell you what those 2 or 3 or maybe 4 areas could be? Or maybe more, I don't know. I can't be a 10 in more than just a couple hilarious. But I think that that's such a powerful question because so few people actually take the time to ask them that question. But I think that's something, even as I'm listening right now, just thinking, okay, what would I pick? What would I write down? What are the areas where I want to be a 10? And then recognizing that, yes, it doesn't mean in my health that I'm just going to let it go. Like, yeah, fine, I'm going to be this great mom or a great daughter, a great wife. And then I'm just going to, eat cupcakes all the time. That there has to be this balance of what is it that I can do to be able, in order for me to give, I've got to take care of my body. So yes, that's absolutely important. And I'm eating like 99% sane. I eat really healthy foods. But yeah, I think that just helps put it in perspective and realizing you have to look at your whole life. And that's what I love about SANE, is you're looking at the whole person, the body, the mind, the spirit, how they all work together. And I don't think that there's anyone out there who doesn't want that result. I just think that there's some things in our brains that get in the way or that stop us or try to convince us that we're not enough no matter what we do. And you're helping me here. So thank you.
Thank you, April. And this is even sounds weird in my head, but one of the good news in quotations is that based on how bad the information we've been given to date is, I mean, like the average American, if you just look at our health, I mean, to even talk about a 10 out of 10 right now is a little bit, I mean, if we could get to a 5 out of 10 for 50% of the people in this country, the healthcare crisis would go away, right? So like, you don't have to be a fitness model to be abnormally fit in our culture. Yeah, right. In fact, there's 2 times as many people in our culture who are significantly overweight than people who are a normal weight. So like you're already in the upper echelons if you're just not overweight.
Yeah. But I love what you're emphasizing is that if of course, we want the whole society to be stronger because that's going to build a stronger society. But also it's not a competition. And that's something that, and as I work with moms and as we work with families, we're always talking about that. There isn't this race to see who has the cleanest house at the end of the day or whose kids have the best GPA or whatever. We put all these external, indicators out there because we want to know how we're doing. And I think that that's a really natural thing. I think as a human, you're constantly looking around. You're constantly trying to figure out, am I okay? Am I on the right path? Am I figuring it out? And I mean, clearly, from my perspective, there's a higher source I need to look to, not just looking to everyone else to see if I'm doing okay, but also just being able to recognize that I need to make that decision for myself as far as what is important to me, and then stick with that and remember that and not get distracted. I mean, I have this little list of things that I read every day. I just created a little note on my phone and it says, read this every morning. And it reminds me who I am, what my purpose is, what my mission is, why I'm waking up and what I'm going to do with today. And yeah, having ripped arms is not on that list. Didn't even make the list, but having a healthy, strong body and being here for my family definitely is.
And that's a perfect segue into the next action, which I have now stolen from you completely, which is the overarching point of this recording is to identify what matters the most to you and to see what you want to be sort of unnaturally good at. Or another way to say that in, I guess, more friendly terms is, what do you want to be remembered for? Because it's usually the things about you that are outstanding that people will remember you for. So an exercise you can do if you're so inclined, and it only takes about 15 minutes, but it's 15 minutes you're going to need to sit down by yourself and focus on it for, is sit in a quiet room by yourself and write down about 500 words of how you want to be remembered. So, maybe this is something you would be like, if someone read this at your funeral, you would be honored to be remembered in that way. And this is a great exercise because chances are for 9 out of 10 or more of people listening to this or watching this, any mention of your physical appearance will not be in that paragraph. Now, for some people, it might be, and that's cool. Like if you're Michael Jordan, you will want to be remembered for some aspect of your physicality. If you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, you will want to be remembered for some aspect of your body. But I bet that for most of our listeners, that won't make those 500 words of how you want to be remembered. So write that down. And like April, just keep that in your pocket. And as long as you're living a life that's going to facilitate you being remembered for being outstanding at the things that matter to you, and I think you're doing a great job. What do you think about that, April?
Well, so now I just have one more story. Now that we've already done the next section, I have to share one more story, but it just brought this to mind. So my mother counted calories all the time. And that's how I grew up, was watching her count the calories. And one of the most painful memories, though, that I have, I mean, I love my mom. She's amazing. But one of the most painful memories I have was watching her look at herself in the mirror. And I saw this a lot. And when she would look at herself in the mirror, she would whisper, "Terrible, terrible." And she was nothing but amazing. She loved us so much. She was sweet. She was the neighbor everyone wanted to have. She was amazing. But she would look at herself in the mirror and she'd say the word "terrible." And as I think of her and how I remember her now, and as I will remember her, it has nothing to do with her size. It has nothing to do with the weight that she always struggled to lose. It didn't matter to me at all. It mattered to her. And so that's why it matters to me. But who she is has nothing to do with her physical appearance. And I just think it's time for us to break this cycle. I know I'm not the only person who feels this way. And I know I'm not the only person who would feel that way watching a parent look at him or herself in the mirror that way. And so I think it's just this overall challenge that we have to break the cycle for our children. When my children watch me look in the mirror, I want them to see that I love myself for who I am and I care enough about myself to take care of my body. But I want these beautiful, wonderful principles that you're teaching and that we're bringing people together to learn through SANE to be able to permeate every aspect of our lives so that we're able to really live our mission and really show other people what they can become as well.
Yeah. And use that fitness, right? You are fit and healthy and vibrant so that you can live. You're not living so that you can be fit, right? So your life is the focus. Yeah. And your health. Now it's got to be a top priority that your health doesn't detract from that. Right. So that's, like in my personal mission statement, it's to be to live a loving, healthy, right, gracious, and empathetic and anti-fragile life in the passionate pursuit of excellence and meaningful contribution. Anyway, so like health is right below loving and it probably should be at the top because it's hard to be loving when you're sick and angry and tired and crabby. But again, life is you live your life and you're fit and healthy so that you can do that. You're not living your life so that you can be fit and healthy. Make sense?
So beautiful. Okay. I think that was one of my favorite episodes we've ever recorded together. And I just want to encourage you who are listening to reflect on these ideas, to be able to think about your life. How are you thinking about your last 10 pounds right now? How are you thinking about your overall purpose? And take time to do that exercise. Write down how you want to be remembered. This is such an opportunity for us to be able to build beautiful lives, beautiful families, and to do what we were meant to do here. So thank you so much. Have a great day, and remember to stay sane.